What's up, everybody? This is the Heartache Connoisseur podcast. Once in a while, I like to do a little solo action here. And so here I am. Pain Sippers, welcome. We are going to talk about today, I'm going to talk to you about this notion of being trite and unoriginal, and perhaps why we are often and how to avoid that. It's almost like the harder we try to avoid it, the more trite and unoriginal we become in some ways. So the path to being original, creative, special, if you will, standing out, bringing something to the table that's unique and helpful. The path to that, in my humble opinion, is setting aside everything you think that it takes and simply being yourself to the best of your ability. I know that's trite, right? Just be yourself. How do you do that? Well, when I say be myself, I don't mean do the thing that is right on the shallow surface of you that you think is going to get you accepted by the people you're around or sound funny or correct according to whatever little culture you're finding yourself in. What I mean when I say be myself is as I mean be connected to that very deepest, truest kernel down inside of me that is uniquely created and sort of differently beautiful. That's in all of us. Most of us work very hard to deny that, push it down. We're afraid to show it. It's vulnerable. It's scary. It's painful if people see what we perceive as the real us. And so we're afraid, and fear is what dictates a large amount of our behaviors. And we don't like to admit that because who wants to be chicken? Who wants to be yella? Well, we're all yella for the most part, and we're hiding, and it's as old as the hills. I mean, this is the human drama. This is the Garden of Eden story. This is, I'm sure, a million other myths. You know, this is the paste and fig leaves all over yourself because you're now exposed and seen. Well, it just doesn't have to be that way. I mean, we can come out from our hiding and be surprised by what we have to offer the world around us, I feel. And I don't know, there's this story that Shelley told me she was talking about, and no criticism to this fellow because I've done the same thing, okay? This is not any kind of a judgment on him, but what she was talking about was how, you know, every Valentine's Day she got the same dozen long-stemmed roses, and, she doesn't even like roses that much. And furthermore, they're unoriginal. They're trite. Because of their commonality, they've lost their punch. They don't have much meaning. And it was the same thing every year. There wasn't any, heart in it. And it got me to thinking, it's sort of like, well, gosh, I do that sort of thing in my life, but how far does that extend? How far out can that idea of giving somebody the trite gift, how far out into our lives can that extend? In what other areas am I completely going through the motions, meaningless, trite? Here it is. Here's my gift. I've done my duty. Here's the thing. Society says it's fine. Society says it's adequate. And it just falls. It's a waste of how much do those damn things cost anyway? You know, they wither and wilt for, 40, $50 for some, hell, I'm probably wrong about that because I never buy them because I don't want to be trite. So the other thing she said, which is kind of interesting, she said, and you know what? My favorite flower is the lily. And we were married almost 20 years and you still didn't know that. And I'm like, yes, we don't know each other because often we don't know ourselves, but we don't we don't take the time frequently to find out, like, what would my mate delight in? Not just what would give me a pass on this holiday, but what would move her, or and this extends far beyond romantic relationships, of course. So anyway, this thing we do, this character we cultivate, very intentionally. Really, no, it's not. It's unintentional. But the danger is that it's sort of it's a slippery slope. You begin to compromise yourself early in life. Probably, it's that moment when kids go from singing their way right through the front door of a Walmart or a Target to, God, I hope nobody notices I'm with my parents. That shift that happens where we go from like footloose and fancy free to terrified of embarrassment. Well, that sticks with us then. We stay embarrassed, and we cultivate this character that's going to reduce opportunity for embarrassment as we see it. And so we begin to decide we like things or dislike things based on what we think we ought to. I was trying to think of examples of this in my own life. And I'm not saying you shouldn't have preferences. Of course, I mean, I hate black licorice, and it has nothing to do with what anybody thinks about me. I just hate it. It's nasty. I don't understand why it's manufactured. I don't know how anyone could stand to touch it or work around it or be in the same factory. It's vile. It's the excrement of the devil, is what it is. So that's how I feel about black licorice. But what I mean is, we say things like, "Well, I see it in my kids." Let's say, my son, somewhere along the line, and this may be partially true. He's like, "Oh, I'm not a sports guy." I'm like, "Well, fine." Now, what does that mean? Does that mean for the rest of his life, he never plays a sport? It might, if he takes on that identity. And might he actually take pleasure in playing on the company softball team or the volleyball league or whatever? He could, but if he decides he's not a sports person, and never tries it, he'll never know. And so I think the danger in this posture is that we do cheat ourselves out of so many experiences. I see it in my kids with foods. Like, I don't like this pot pie or this stew or whatever it is. Well, it's only got ingredients in it that you eat individually and like fine. So now they're just combined. What's the problem? Well, it's different. That's what it is. It's kind of slimy. There's, I don't know, liquidy, juicy stuff, and I can't control the cut of every bite of chicken, and it's I'm not doing it. And I think sometimes too, it's really about control. If we may feel so powerless and I don't know, sort of impotent in our lives that the only thing we have are our opinions. It's like the kids are by nature fairly powerless. They don't have a lot of ability to care for themselves, and they're heavily reliant. But at least they can say what foods they don't like. I mean, it's sort of like that. But then we carry it on. Other examples for me might be like, well, I used to say, back in the 90s when I was like way into indie rock and everything. It's like, I don't like country. I don't like it. Categorically. I'm anti-country. Well, what does that really mean? What am I really saying? Am I saying that the chord progressions used in country music are offensive to my ears? Am I saying that people in cowboy hats and boots are fundamentally, I don't know, stupid, wrong, not creative? Or am I saying that the steel guitar is uniquely unlikable? Well, it kind of is, but that's a different. What I'm saying is I don't like what country music represents as compared to the identity I'm trying to cultivate for myself, right? I wanted to be a hipster. I wanted to be in Converse All-Stars and flannel, look like Eddie Vedder or something. And I'm pretty sure in my mind, Eddie Vedder didn't like country. So I wasn't going to like it either. Now, as my life has gone on, I've discovered that some country I like and some I don't like, and that the word country is just it's a very broad term used to describe a genre of music. Oh, there's this other thing that people will say. Oh, I only like old country. That's like the cool response. I'm not allowed to like uh, you know Kenny Chesney, but Johnny Cash is okay. Like that's all part of a character too. Has this person ever actually sat down with a Kenny Chesney song and analyzed the lyrics? Probably not. Uh, my preference for music and musical things, let's say, in my life, no, this is the truth, it's evolved substantially. And there's a lot of country I like. There are plenty of country songwriters that are really talented and are able to write songs that say something and mean something in ways that are contributing to our culture in positive ways in some aspects. And they're genuine heroes of mine from a songwriting standpoint. There are also country songs that I find wildly shallow and meaningless and not deep and promoting ideals that I think are, I don't know, cotton candy. They're just not substantial. However, even in that, if I let myself remain neutral and I just sit and listen to that, I can often find things about it that I like. Like I can say, well, that line right there, even though it was saying something completely asinine, was really clever. It was clever. It was said in a way that was catchy. They did a good job of communicating that sentiment, however silly it might have been. Um, and that's really been the story of my life, and that's a lot of what becoming a mature, healthy person means. It's beginning to let go of all these assumptions. I don't like NASCAR. I don't like red meat. I don't eat anything but organic. I don't use anything but whatever it is. It's a list of rules that we construct for ourselves that we think fits. We think it makes us justified somehow. That's it. I mean, we're trying to, in our own mind, put together an identity that we can stand. And the reason we can stand it is because other people in our circles say that it's fine. And then we just begin to, customize all the information that we take in to support this trite and unoriginal view of ourselves. So my Twitter feed and my Facebook feed, it's only things that don't piss me off, or I only read these periodicals, and I don't shop at these stores, and I do this activity that I consider wholesome, and not this other thing that I consider a waste of my time. And again, all fine. We're free. We can do whatever we like, and there are genuine human preferences involved here. But there's also just a lot of crap, just a lot of posturing and arrogant crap. And what's kind of ironic is that we sort of want to be special all along, yet we make ourselves ever more like some imagined ideal that we think is cool or hip or acceptable. And so there's this disconnect there, and those are colliding forces, and eventually that comes home to roost. It's like you play this game long enough, and you get to a point where you're like, I don't even know where I am. I mean, I don't even know who I am. I can't keep up the charade. It's too hard. It's too tiring. But I don't even remember what image I projected to that person 5 years ago. Do they think I'm this or this? Do I have to alter? Do I have to go back into an old character while I'm talking to this person? Do I need to, it's exhausting, and it's dishonest too. Mark Twain said, just tell the truth, and you don't have to try and remember what you said. And it's if you're yourself, you don't have to try to remember what to be. It's the same concept. So it's exhausting, and we take our parameters that we've self-defined as acceptable, and we try to to mark out some unique or special identity within those. But we've, out of the chute, already constrained ourselves substantially because there's a certain kind of presentation that we've already ruled out, even though that could be down deep within us. Possibly. We don't really know because we're not fully actualized. We haven't fully explored ourselves. And it's a shame because with all of our similar tendencies and all of our needs that are overlapping, our needs for love and care and attention and to be, I don't know, seen and recognized and all that. That's fine, but down deep there's something. I see it in my work. There's something genuinely interesting and wildly beautiful down deep in every single person. And I know that sounds cliche, and I would have just crucified myself. My 20-year-old self would have been off in the corner snickering, like, this old man he's full of it. He's been reading too many children's books and watching too many Disney's movies. But it's true. And here's how I learned this lesson. I learned it because I don't really get to control who comes before me in my work. So I end up talking to people from all walks of life, people from the left, people from the right, people with IQs of 180, people who are mentally disabled, people with brain injuries and diseases of all kinds, men, women, old people, young people. There's not one subcategory of people that I have not, with my own eyes, attempted to form, a relationship with my own being, put out there for this person, and vice versa, where I'm trying to actually connect. And that just changed the crap out of me. I would go home at the end of the day and I'd be kind of recounting my day or something, and I'd think, man, I really had a great interaction with this person. And then a few minutes later, I'd think, uh-oh, that person falls into a category that I judged in the past. Oh, no. Okay, something's got to give here. I either got to let go of my judgment or stop liking this person, And eventually people, if you let them, they win you over. They do. Even people who are mentally disabled, let's say, in a group home, who can't even carry on an intelligible conversation. If you ever find yourself in a place like that and you take a look down deep behind their eyes, there's something there. There is. Somebody with Alzheimer's disease, let's say, they can't remember their own kids' names, but you look in there and you're like, there's something alive in there looking back at me anyway, even though it doesn't know who I am or what I'm doing here. And it's beautiful, and it's intriguing, and it draws you in, and it's just as interesting as it could possibly be. But you got to put yourself out there, and you've got to set aside your own judgments long enough to see people for who they really are instead of the externals that you decide are them. And it's hard. It's a hard lesson to learn because, you know what, I have many judgments. I have many prejudices. That's the thing. I mean, I almost just, okay, listen, people. I get on the internet or watch the news, and it's like, that group over there is bigoted. That group over there is hate mongering. That group over there is this. That group over there is that. I'm like, seriously? Is this not obvious to you people? Is this not completely bloody obvious how giant of a hypocrite every one of you is? It's like you discriminate against all kinds of stuff all the time. Yeah, maybe this guy picked skin color, or this guy picked sexuality or gender. But what are you picking? Like, there's probably a list of really unfair reasons by which you pigeonhole someone all over the place. Are you less of a bigot? Are you? Really? I don't think you are. I think you're exactly the same. Exactly the same. And you're scared to come out of hiding. And it's easier to just point a finger. Go, they're wrong. I'm not. It's frustrating to watch, but you don't have to watch it. That's the good news. Is you can just turn it off. You really don't have to. But back to people. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of the complexity of humanity and the this thing right here that we all have up on top of our shoulders is so poorly understood and so mystical. Um, I'm sorry, but science does not have a good handle on this. It does not. Maybe on the kidney, maybe on your heart and your lungs, but not on your brain. They don't know really what consciousness is. Why are we self aware? It's not clear really, especially when you compare ourselves to compare humans to other higher life forms with similar DNA and all this kind of things. Like we seem to be light years ahead in some really weird, strange ways that just science just not able to explain. And I know some would argue with me on that, but my point is that this thing, there's no end. There's no end to the mystery. There's no end to the subtlety. Everyone's experiences are a little different. There's always a new twist on the story. And I know I've said before, like, your problems are boring and they're repetitive. And in some ways that's true. And what I mean by that is that the boring part is really just that same song of they suck and I don't. It's their fault, not mine. Or I'm worthless and they're better. It's always some variation of a ranking system where we're deciding, you know, for whatever reason, either I'm more vile than you, or my suffering is worse than your suffering, or something like that. It's all just superficial rankings. So getting to know people, and it's not just in mental health. I mean, I think any profession or volunteer work or anything like that where you find yourself in front of people in a way that they're being vulnerable, and you are forced to be vulnerable back if you want to really do the job. It changes you. It really does, and that's one of the reasons that it's like the more time you spend home alone with your computer, the weirder you get. I mean, you got to get out there and socialize. I mean, we do it with our dogs. We take them to the dog park. We have an idea that it's good for them. We do it to our kids. We better put them in preschool or they're going to be weird. Well, the same thing happens to you when you grow up. You just stay at home and get weird. And you just find other people that are weird the same way, and you just multiply your weirdness, and you get ever more, kooky. So I love you, though. I really do. I want the best for humanity. That's why I'm down here in my basement this morning doing this. I want people to take a good hard look at themselves, because frankly, I think all this political posturing and everything that people are doing is just a complete waste of time. I mean, I realize that political movements have caused changes throughout the course of human history, and those of you who feel motivated deep down in your hearts to push forward on some cause that makes you feel alive, more power to you. But please understand, if it's not working for you anymore, it's okay to just not do anything. It's okay to take a seat and look inward. It's okay to engage in some self-exploration and ask yourself some important questions, like, what do I really want? What am I doing? Is this making a difference? Is this fulfilling? Is this satisfying? Am I doing this because I'm angry, because I'm trying to take something out? Am I doing this because I really care? Do I really care? Do I really care about the downtrodden, or am I just mad at the oppressor? And I just want to, they're a convenient target. Well, I can point my anger and bitterness gun at them because it's socially acceptable to pick on that group. Meanwhile, you never lift a finger to actually help someone who's actually in need, you know. And just screaming into Twitter is not helping people in need. I'm sorry, it just isn't. All right, well, there's my soapbox this morning. I hope you've enjoyed it. I got to go to work. Still trying to make myself useful. All right, thanks for listening. And by the way, we're on social media. We're on Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff, and SoundCloud, and there's a podcast, and there's a YouTube channel. It's all called The Heartache Connoisseur. Thanks a lot. See you next time.